guys, welcome back to Halloween Horror World. My name is Crazy Englishman, and today we have some special guests. This is my parents, Dad Wayne over there. He was the one that got me into Halloween Horror Nights, so I owe a lot of my love of Horror Nights to my dad. It took me kicking and screaming back in 2006, and grown to love it ever since. So who better to review the Orlando event than my parents? So we're going to start off with the reviews of the mazes, and then I'm going to ask them what they thought about the event, what was good, what was bad, what could be changed, just some thoughts like that. So let's start things off with Dollhouse of the Damned. Now, what are you guys' thoughts? If you'd like to give the maze a rating 1 out of 10, 1 through 10, that would be fantastic. So let's kick it off with Dollhouse of the Damned. So what did you guys think?
What rating would you give it, Brian? We really liked it, didn't we?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was 6 or 7.
Oh, I'd say 8, actually,
Really?
because it was better than some of them. Yeah. The reason,
I'd give it a 7, Dave.
and I'd give it an 8.
But, you know, dolls are always creepy anyway.
Yeah, that's why I give it an 8. It's, I liked the outside of it. So many of them weren't dressed outside, you know, it was like just going into a building, which was a bit disappointing. But this one was actually done out like a house, and it had all dolls' heads and everything on the outside, so it was really quite creepy. And there was some adult-sized live actor babies in cots, and they had these awful masks on, and they were just super creepy, super creepy.
They weren't leaping out or anything or
No,
grabbing, they were
they
just
were
sitting
just
there
sat there
looking around
looking
in
at
these
you.
cots. They
Yeah.
were quite
Yeah.
creepy.
They were, and the other thing we liked was sort of all right at the end on the way out, there was that girl sitting there, wasn't it? And she'd sewn a doll's face. She had like a stretched face coming down, and then she had sewed a doll's face onto the front, and was like craving a doll, wasn't she? And that was super creepy, super creepy.
But it was better than we thought, because
Far better.
it wasn't one of the main mazes. It was one of the what you would call, I guess, the lesser mazes. But it was actually it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember when we discussed it the last time, you said it was definitely a highlight for you guys. So what would you give it as a stag, as a rating, like altogether? I know you guys have said 6, 7, 8. What do you think as a collective you would rate it?
You said 7, I said
I'd go
8.
with a 7.
All right, then we'll go with a 7 out of 10.
7? So Dollhouse of the Damned, guys? 7. So let's move on to Roanoke California.
Can I just tell you something about this?
Yeah.
Was this
Of
the
course.
one that, when you came out the exit, it's the only one when it was miles away? Because we need to tell them about that. I think it was Dollhouse of the Damned, wasn't it?
It came out the same place. Yes, it did, yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
quite
just tell them
misleading.
about that, because people need to know about that.
Before you go into Dollhouse of the Damned, if you follow the route map around, the first maze you hit would be Halloween. And you come out of there, and then you have to walk around the block to the entrance to Dollhouse of the Damned, which is right next door to the Roanoke Cannibal Colony. But when you come out the dollhouse, it takes you back to where you came out of Halloween, so you have to walk back around. And it was because we'd left those mazes towards the end of the evening, we were feeling quite tired. It really, the last thing we wanted to do was double back on ourselves again, you know. And
This was the Dollhouse of the Dam was the one before the very last one. We did it like a crescent. We started with dusk till dawn, went all the way around. So by that time, you're pretty tired. So the last thing you need is to have to double back on yourself. So that was a shame, because you just want to come out, get in the last maze, and then you're nearly at the front gates again.
yeah. So, you know, you've got...
You need to hold it up.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it myself. You've got Halloween here, and Dollhouse of the Damned is here, but the exit's back here. So you end up having to walk back around again to do Roanoke.
Yeah, so just be prepared for that, because if you're absolutely exhausted by that time, that's not what you need.
It wasn't what we needed.
In fact, we said if the Roanoke exit had been the same, you were just going to fall to your knees and cry, weren't you? Because we were just exhausted by this time. Okay, Dave.
So speaking of Roanoke, let's move on to that. So Roanoke Cannibal Colony. Now this one I've had my interest on because I love the whole myths and history behind the disappearance of the Roanoke colony. And now at Horror Nights we have their version of the story. Now, what did you guys think of the maze?
I really enjoyed it.
I did too.
I really enjoyed it.
Very creepy.
Yeah, because I like the feel of the maze, that it wasn't in modern times, and you know, I don't want to give too much away, but it had a creepy feeling because it was set in a period long ago, and it's very hard to explain. And there's trees, and you know, and this compound, and there's people eating people, and I just really liked the vibe that it had.
There was a Wendigo in there too, wasn't there?
That was right at the end.
I've heard good things about that. The costume for the Wendigo was quite
The Wendigo was good.
They basically tied the Roanoke thing into the Wendigo legend. And that's right at the end. But I really liked it.
I did too. The only thing I was disappointed with was when you go through, just before you go through the door, they had a few things out there, like a bit of an archway, didn't they?
Well, you're going into a compound, aren't you?
But again, there was nothing else done. So you knew you were going onto a set, and I thought that was a shame because they could have done more with the outside. Because you're waiting there a long time, staring at a blank wall, and they could have upped the anticipation, I think, if they made more of that. But all in all, it was a very creepy maze. I always find anything, although this is built on almost legend, but anything that's got a grain of truth in it, I always find that scarier. But I thought it was very well done. Yeah, it was like going back in time to this village inside. So yeah, very good.
Yeah, we were pleasantly surprised with that one.
Yeah.
Because we'd left those two to the end because they're basically considered that and the Giggles and Gore. You would consider the lesser mazes.
Yeah.
But we didn't do Giggles and Gore, but those two we were actually pleasantly surprised. But of the two, I really liked the Cannibal Colony a lot.
Yeah.
Because there's something very disturbing about people eating people.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not fantastic. You know, you go to the Walking Dead maze and zombies aren't real. So you've got that element of fantasy to it.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with cannibals, this is real people eating people. So it gives it that.
Yeah, it touches a nerve, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Something inherently disturbing about it as well. Like it taps into that primal fear of being eaten by the same species.
Yeah, because as I say, at the end of the day, zombies are a fictional thing. Yeah, it's horrible, but it's fictional. Whereas this could really happen, you know.
So what would you guys rate it?
I'd give that an 8.
I'd give it an 8 too.
So Roanoke.
And that's good because by this time this was the last maze. And people need to know that we just didn't go to Halloween Horror Nights that night so that we had this special price ticket. We had to go to Universal Studios for the whole day.
The whole day.
The humidity was over 80%, and it was in the 90s, and it actually didn't get much better in the evening. So by the time we got to these last two, if they hadn't have been good, we would be panning them by now because, to be honest with you, our bodies had given up by this time, and we were going on sheer willpower, on its own. Yeah. So that's a testament, I think, to how good these mazes were. That we still enjoyed them.
That the night off nicely for us, didn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of finished on a high.
And Dad didn't have to drop to his knees and cry because we did come out at a decent exit.
I said to Mum, I said, if we come out that exit again, I said, I'm just going to fall to the ground and weep. Because we have to walk back around again.
So Roanoke gets an 8. Let's move on to, I know a lot of people's anticipated maze for this year. It's got a lot of people excited. It got me excited. And my fellow colleague, Psychomassacre Films, he loves Halloween as much as I did. So let's talk about the Halloween maze. Now, you definitely surprised me with your reaction to this maze. Do you want to
Yeah.
tell us about that?
You said, you know, a lot of people really liked it.
I was disappointed.
Yeah, we were disappointed.
From the queuing up, when you arrive at the Myers home, and as you pointed out to us, there was a projection on there. Well,
It wasn't working.
I'd caught a glimpse of it, but by the time we got to the house, there was nothing like that going
Nothing
on.
at
So
all.
there's just this bland
Yeah, it
white
looked really
house
boring,
there.
didn't it?
It did.
Yeah.
It was doing
Just
nothing.
like this
It was
porch
dull.
with a pumpkin on.
So
That
then
was it.
you go into the house, but the maze was kind of open. You know, what didn't feel claustrophobic, which I understand.
And it was
but-
quite light.
and it was
wasn't
quite
it?
light in there. So there was no real you know.
We
'cause
could
you-
see
they were
every single space where those Michael Myers were coming out.
Yeah, and for me it was like, okay, let's
Yeah.
go. Oh, we're in another room.
I felt that some of the actors were rather lackluster. You know, it was like, and then back in again.
Yeah, it wasn't
it was,
very good. I was
you know,
disappointed.
and it is awful when you know exactly where they're coming from. I mean, some of these mazes were darker. You couldn't see where the scare
Yeah.
actors were coming
It was
out.
too
But
light
in
in
this house, you could. And so that kind of spoilt it a bit. 'Cause you
Killed
knew
the
exactly
atmosphere
where.
a bit.
Yeah, it did kill the atmosphere a bit. The
Especially-
actual house inside, I thought was
It was
nice,
well
wasn't
done.
it? You know, it looked like a house,
Yeah.
and it had wallpaper and stuff on the walls. The other thing that we noticed was when you got to the front room, there was the girl. We know where Michael Myers is
the Laurie
behind.
Strode, and he comes up behind her. Yeah.
Yes. Well, the problem was they didn't give each group enough time to get out because it was quite a long front room. So you were in there quite a while. And it was funny because we felt on a lot of the mazes, we were really they were
Yeah.
doing this all the time, really rushing us through.
There's so many people.
And we were going, well, don't care how many people, we paid a lot of money to go through this
Yeah.
maze. We actually want to see. You don't want to fly through because there are so many lovely details that
Yeah.
you would miss. But when we went through the front room, because it was so big, this girl had to reset herself. She had to reset herself in front of everybody, which kind of killed it for us.
Yeah.
You know, she was like sitting here, wasn't she? And then Michael Myers did that. And then she fell down, I think, to the side. And then she had to, like, reset herself. You know, okay. So,
Yeah,
there were too many Michael Myers, weren't there? We
I
said.
think so. And I know it's a Halloween maze, so that's to be expected, but I don't know, it's a very hard thing to put my finger
Yeah.
on, but I was...
We wanted to like it because
Yeah.
we loved the film.
I love the
We really,
original
yeah, we
Halloween.
wanted to like it.
But I was really
Yeah.
quite disappointed with it.
And I mean, did you know that there was supposed to be that projection on the
No.
front? See, I didn't know that either, and I was thinking, oh, this is boring. You know, I thought they might have done something more, and it wasn't until you told us afterwards that we should have seen all this. And then we went and had a look at someone's video, and we thought, oh, yeah, that's really cool,
Yeah,
but we
it's-
didn't want to see it.
The projection I really loved. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was really cool how it breaks apart the house, and then you just see Michael's face right here.
It would have made the front of the house by the time we got there a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
Because by the time we got there, it was just this white house, and that was it.
They could have put a young Michael Myers. You know, like after he killed his sister and he's outside the house, they could have had him maybe tormenting the guests a little bit.
That's what I thought they could have done, but no, it's just a house with a few pumpkins on the patio and the porch, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was Halloween. Very disappointed.
And
Wouldn't
how
have viewed as long as people did. They
No.
If you watch the original film, it's a very dark film. It's only light in the daylight at the beginning, but there's a lot of shadow play in the film, and it's supposed to be dark. You're not supposed to know where Michael's coming out.
I thought it was quite bright.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
So what would you guys rate Halloween?
I'd give it a 5.
I would give it a 5. Yeah.
So that's an interesting turn, because I know a lot of people really either like that maze or, like, as you guys were, kind of meh around it. But that's very interesting. We got very contrasting reviews on that maze from different Horror Night updaters. So moving on, let's hit Dracula Untold Reign of Blood. What did you guys think? Now, the movie has just come out, so I know not a lot of people have seen the film, so they don't know really what to expect. So, going through blind, what were you guys' thoughts on it?
I didn't mind it, to be honest.
Yeah, you really liked it, didn't you?
I didn't mind it, and as I say, we we've not seen the movie because I think it opens today.
Yeah, it's out here in the UK now.
It opens today, so we didn't know what to expect, and it was okay. I certainly preferred it to Halloween, that's for sure.
Yeah. Again, it was
Was it
dark
the best
shadows
maze?
and
Yeah, was it the best maze? No, but I enjoyed it more than I did Halloween.
definitely. Yeah, it was quite well done. Costumes were good.
Yeah.
I like the makeup. Yeah, I thought it was quite. Yeah.
Again, I tend to like stuff that isn't modern.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I
I find
find
it creepier, don't
I do. I find things that are set in a period maybe a few hundred years ago or whatever, just a little bit creepier.
Well,
You know, I've always liked gothic
yeah.
horrors and stuff. I'm not a big fan of modern horror, but the gothic horrors and the old time scares always appealed to me more. I think because in a lot of ways there was more of a threat because people didn't have modern weaponry and
Yeah.
all that. So people, it was swords or bows and arrows. So there was more of a threat.
Or fangs in this case.
No, I'm talking about the humans defending themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas now people have got all kinds of weaponry available. So to me, I like where they're set in little villages and, you know, so it appealed to me on that level.
So what?
And it's okay.
Yeah. What would you guys rate it?
I'd give it 6.
I think I'd give it a 6.
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite a 7. I think a good 6. Yeah.
6.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
No.
So moving on to the next maze, definitely one you guys have only seen the first season. You haven't seen season 4 yet, which is what this maze is based off. Let's talk about The Walking Dead End of Line. What were you guys' thoughts? Now, this was the biggest house that Horror Nights has ever done.
It's huge.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
constructed a huge set for this. So tell me you guys' thoughts on this.
Well, it says The Walking Dead End of Line, and you really don't want to be at the end of that line. Oh, it was so busy, wasn't it?
Well, that was the point.
That was the point.
That was the point
yeah.
when Mum said, if we don't get this express pass,
We're
we'll
gonna
be
see-
lucky.
We see 3.
We'll be lucky to do 3 or 4 mazes tonight.
Yeah.
Because the line for that was already over at
Horrendous.
like an hour and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. It was.
'Cause
It
we
just
just-
went on forever,
We'd
didn't
just
it?
done Dusk Till Dawn, which we actually queued for.
And that was quite a long queue
Yeah, that
as
was a
well, wasn't it?
40-minute
Yeah.
wait. We come out of that and we saw, it seemed like thousands of people. I mean, what's this? What's this? And that was the line for The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And Mum said, there is no way I am standing and queuing for that. So we went and got the express passes and we
Yeah.
went through it.
And do you know what? I wouldn't like to say they're worth every penny because I think they're extortionate, but for us it was worth it because I cannot stand in 90-degree heat at night with that humidity for 90 minutes. I just couldn't do it. And what made it even worse was a lot of these mazes are kind of set behind the real rides that you don't see in the day. So a lot of them are corridor type things, and so there's no air circulating, and you've got thousands of people around you. So it got very hot, and I saw a lot of people looking very ill. So you know, for those of your viewers that are our age or around our age, I would highly suggest it so that you could at least get through, because it was just even with the fast passes, obviously there were tons of people that had them, but at least it did afford us to get all the way round.
Yeah, we did everything
there.
we wanted to do.
Yeah, and I would say, for heaven's sake, if you're at the Orlando one, take plenty of water. Just keep filling up your bottle. There were a lot of people, of course, drinking. They sell a lot of alcohol there, which I think is crazy, particularly in that weather, because some people were really looking worse for wear, because, of course, alcohol hydrates you, and that was making them 10 times worse. So I would say that if you do like a drink, for heaven's sake, counteract it with a ton of water, because you will feel it. Yeah.
So
But the maze itself was very good. Very long. It just seemed to keep going on and on and on. But the trouble for us, as you said, is we've not
Yeah.
seen season 4,
yeah.
so a lot of it actually made no sense to us. We couldn't relate to what the the different scenarios were. So, but that being said, I mean, it was still a very good maze.
Yeah, having said that, you know, I mean, I didn't know what, because I think I've probably watched 2 episodes of The Walking Dead. Sorry, fans of Walking Dead.
We saw the whole season.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
It was a long time ago. So I don't know what's going on there, but I actually really enjoyed it because I thought the makeup was really good. And I thought the settings were very good.
One thing I would say though, is I know they have the warnings at the beginning, but there is one point where you go through a chain link fence area with zombies behind the fencing, and it involves strobe lighting. Now, I'm never affected by that, but I did find it quite disorientating, and I found my balance was going with the flashing light. So that's the first time I've ever experienced that. So if anybody...
If you've got epilepsy or you're prone to stuff, don't even go in that maze.
Do not go in that maze.
No, because really it was
very strange.
I don't have a problem with strobe lighting. There is actually quite a few of those mazes did use strobe lighting.
Yeah, you'd expect that.
And some of them to good effect because it was short bursts. But this was crazy. You had a big area to walk through with all these chain link fences, and then behind the chain link fences were the zombies. But it was so disorientating. You felt like you were almost on a boat to rock in, and you were actually going. I was going into the fence a lot of the time, and so it really. And I saw a few people like walk up of there as if they'd like just been smacked in the head. They would just look dizzy, and I thought that was probably not a great idea.
So, as I say, if anyone even thinks they're going to have trouble with strobe light, that will certainly do it. Because, as I say, I've never had a problem like I did in that one.
And the rest of the maze was good. So if you're with someone, just close your eyes and ask them to lead you through that bit. Yeah.
So,
very good maze.
So does
Very
the
good
size
maze.
of the maze contribute to the design? Like, was the design really good? Like, was there a lot more details given the size of the maze to really look at and grasp? I know there's the whole tunnel sequence in season 4 where the characters come across a tunnel where walkers have been kind of entombed in the rocks. What was that scene like? It's as you're moving through. I saw a bit of walkthrough video for myself. You've got on both sides. You've got kind of rubble and stuff, and the zombies are entombed inside trying to grab you.
I remember that.
Do you know what is a problem, Dave, to be honest with you? Is because there are so many people, they are whisking you through.
It's annoying.
And it's very hard to take it in. I mean, and it tends to, some of it just tends to blur from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time recalling what I went through because it's like you've got people constantly doing that to you. So there's no time to sort of take it in a bit and take your time because keep moving. So.
And that in some of these mazes, that was a bit of a problem for me because my eyes adjust to the dark a lot slower than Dad's. Well, thank goodness his eyes are better because you're plunged into darkness in some of these. They're whizzing in, come on. And I nearly tripped a few times. I had to hang on to Dad. None of these mazes scare me. I'm not one of these people that like piggyback through the maze. But what did scare me was the fact that I couldn't see where I was going. I didn't know where I was going in parts because I just couldn't see. So we'll warn people about that. You know, if your eyes are a bit slow at adapting to the dark, be careful because they're trying to push you through so quickly that you can easily.
So many people.
Yeah, and through doing that, I think you end up sometimes touching the actors. You know, because they're actually quite close to you in quite a few of these mazes. And Dad got hit in one of the mazes. Yeah, it was an accident, but they're coming out at you, and like the zombies are coming out at you, and they do touch you quite a lot actually. But I think that's because there's a lot of you all being herded through. You can't see where you're going very well, and that's the situation you get.
It's a very good maze.
But it was a super maze.
It was well constructed and designed, and
I love it when it is a big maze because I always feel you've waited ages to go in it. You want it to be worthwhile. You want it to last. Yeah, and that was the super thing about The Walking Dead. At least it wasn't. You
it's
felt
probably the biggest maze I think I've ever gone through.
Yeah, I don't think you've been in one bigger than that, have you?
It's just when you think, oh, this must be it. There's around the corner and there's another bit.
Well, we're so used to the Hollywood mazes, aren't we, Deb? Where they use a lot of tent mazes, whereas these are a lot of sound stages that they use.
Yeah.
So, what would you guys rate The Walking Dead End of Line?
I think I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8, I think.
I'd give it an 8.
So, moving on to my personal most anticipated film maze of 2014 for both Hollywood and Orlando, Alien vs. Predator. This one I've been psyched to hear that it was announced, and having seen the Hollywood one, loving the design of it. What was the Orlando one like?
I enjoyed it.
I really like this one.
I really enjoyed it. The only thing I would say is because I've watched footage of the Hollywood version, I think the Hollywood version was better because it was more what it said it was, which was Alien versus Predator. The Orlando version just felt more like just aliens.
With cameos of Predators.
Yes, but with predators there, you know. But the actual setting and the scene, the set design felt more like aliens.
Yeah.
You know, so but we still enjoyed it. I mean, now when they come out and the strobes working, that was quite
That
effective.
works very well. Yeah, and of course, like you said to us that they based it on, they had the real makeup or something, didn't you? The prosthesis and things.
ADI's actual costumes, Tom and Alex molds to build the alien puppets and the Predator suits. So
Now that really showed. I felt that really showed. I thought they were just scary. I mean, they were super good, and again, they had it dark enough so that you couldn't always see them. And when they came out with the noises,
They had all the sound
they had
effects.
all the sound effects. The Predator, I thought, looked amazing. And you can really tell the difference when they do come from the proper studio, when they've stepped in and helped. Definitely, I liked it because it was different to all the others, because you were in this kind of
Had that
capsule thing. It had
claustrophobic.
that claustrophobic
that's a very
feel.
alien film aspect, is claustrophobia.
Yeah. The only thing that I would warn people, which they did not mention on the outside, was
Not that we saw.
No, well, we didn't see it. We didn't see it. I mean, they warn you about every flipping thing under the sun. You know, I mean, if you read all those things, you'd never go in any mazes, because there's always something that pertains to you why you shouldn't go in it. So you have to ignore all that. But just a warning that if you do have a bad back, and I mean, you know, a lot of younger people don't have good backs either, do they? Right at the end, he's ushering you out, and you actually have to go. You have to bend right down and go through this tunnel. And you know, I was seizing up at this time, so that wasn't fun. There are strips that go above it, so it's not a solid ceiling above you, and I literally had to poke my head out for it. Which defeated the object, really. But a lot of people were doing that because they weren't expecting that. So just a word of warning there. But I just thought that was a super maze. I loved the sets on it. They had the big, what's that company? Yeah, they had those big tractor things and that outside.
Like you said, I saw Inside the Magic's mini walkthrough of it, and it did seem very aliens. Like, they even had colonial marines in the maze.
It was more aliens than AVP.
Yeah.
But when you did see the Predator, it was good.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen of the Hollywood version,
Based on AVPR.
it is AVP.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining because aliens is superb anyway, so
Yeah.
it was very odd. But I enjoyed it nonetheless.
Yes.
Now, I have to ask this, and I know it's kind of a spoiler, but did they have... you guys have seen the Hollywood footage. Did they have a queen in AVP in Orlando? No.
I didn't see one.
No queen.
No.
It's a shame, because in Hollywood they had a 15-foot puppet of a queen.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That would have been
That
cool.
would have been
I mean,
cool.
they had something. One of them was coming down through the
Yeah, but
ceiling,
it
wasn't it? But that
queen.
wasn't a queen, was it?
It wasn't a queen.
No.
No, there was no queen. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Because that was
Yeah, that would have been
I'm
awesome.
surprised with the size that they have in sound stages in Orlando that they couldn't fit one in somewhere. Maybe in the egg chamber.
Yeah, like you say, they've got a lot more room to play with there,
Yeah.
haven't they?
However, saying that, the Hollywood one did utilize their soundstage for that maze. So sounds like you guys really enjoyed it. So what would you rate Alien vs Predator?
I'd give that an 8 as well.
I'd give it a 9 out of 10.
Ooh, quite.
Yeah. It would have got a 9.5, but I had to knock the half off for the surprise top.
Yeah, the ventilation shafts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on, last but certainly not least, amazed that actually I was kind of iffy about until I actually sat down and marathoned my way through the series. From Dusk Till Dawn. What did you guys think of that one?
That was the first maze we went to, because we did it in chronological order, because it was like done it in a crescent, so we like followed it round, didn't we? So that was the first maze.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
it. Yeah.
I love Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, I love the movie too.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that they had to tone some of it down, obviously, for a PG-13 audience and younger.
Change the name
But
of the
the certain bar, yeah. But I really enjoyed it. I really did.
I liked all the different. You kept one came around one corner. There was a whole different scenario going on. There was a lot of action in between.
It wasn't. There was bits where people jumped out, but it was like actually walking through scenes. From,
yeah, it was like
you know, you were sort of a viewer, but in the scene. So it wasn't just woo people. You know, you actually walked through scenes from the show. Yes, it's based on the TV show. Yeah. So I really liked it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
That was a good surprise for me because I didn't know how that was going to go.
And it was nice, as I say, because it was different. I love the AVP because it was closed in, it was claustrophobic, and you felt like you were somewhere alien. Dusk Till Dawn I liked because instead of just having people going woo, woo, jumping out at you all the time, it was like walking through a film, and you had lots of different scenes. I really liked that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
So what would you guys rate from Dusk Till Dawn?
What would you say? 7, 8?
I'd give that an 8.
Yeah.
And actually, I've reconsidered my AVP because I think for me, because I'm a big Alien Predator fan anyway, I think I'd put that to a 9. Because I think for me, that was my favourite maze of the night. I'm not a big Walking Dead fan. The maze, if you were a Walking Dead fan, that would probably be a 10.
Maze. Yeah.
But because I'm a bit meh on Walking Dead, you know, for me, my favourite was AVP, but it was a close thing with Dusk Till Dawn, to be honest with you. I was quite impressed with it. Was it scary? No, I don't get scared of mazes, but I enjoyed it nonetheless.
And we have a good laugh because we always seem to be around some teenager that's screaming. And the scare actors just know it. I mean, they hate me because they come out right in my face and I go, yeah, and walk off. What? So they always go for the younger girls, and it is, I find it hilarious.
You jumped in AVP, didn't you?
I did actually, yeah, because I think the costumes were so good, and it was so dark in there, I couldn't see very well, and so I had one that came out. It was right by the side of my.
From what I've seen in the video, going back to AVP real quick, I know the puppeteers for the alien were really fast and aggressive with the head movements and the mini mouth coming out and that. I have to note, a lot faster and more aggressive than the alien puppets in Hollywood. If you look at the video for Hollywood, they're very slow, they kind of move their arms, but these are more, I'd have to say more mobile. They've got more movement to them.
There was more minutes.
Yeah.
You factor the movement in with the strobe lighting.
It's really effective.
It's really quite effective. Really quite effective. But they should have took the Predators out and just called that Aliens.
I think it would have worked better too. I mean, considering this year is the 35th anniversary of the original film. I know I've heard they couldn't... What's that?
That film's that old. I remember watching that when it came out.
It's, so it's the 35th anniversary of the original Alien film, and I'm actually surprised that they didn't try to go for an alien theme. However, I've heard that because Disney owns the rights to some of it for the great, the great the great movie ride. They've got that scene from Alien. They own the rights to that first part. So they could have gone with aliens, just an aliens theme, to kind of cover for the 35th anniversary. So I'm actually surprised they went with Alien versus Predator, to be honest. So overall, we've seen all the mazes, and we've got some great perspectives from you guys. Let's finish off with your overall thoughts of the event, what they can improve, or what you liked, what you didn't like. So let's end with that.
Well, I have to point out, we didn't actually see any shows, did we? No. Because we wouldn't have seen the mazes. That was the downside. Shame.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the point of Horror Nights is the mazes. And when you've paid as much as you do to get in, why anyone would waste money or time to go and see a show? Because if you don't have an express pass, you're going to find it tough. There's 8 mazes there, and you would find it tough to do 4.
And it closed at midnight, so
on the Thursday night it closed early. So why anyone would set aside time to go and watch a show?
Or some of the rides were open.
Well, the rides are open. Why unless people use it as a cheap way to get into Universal for a day, they're not really interested in Horror Nights. They just want to do the rides on the cheap. Do you know what I mean? So the shows hold no interest for me personally, because I'm there for the mazes. Secondly, if the scare zones are good, that's a bonus, but I was a bit disappointed with the scare zones.
What was
the
that?
first one.
That Purge or something?
The first one you come to is Masquerade Unstitched, which was just people on stilts going around with masks on.
And then they come up behind you and like do this, and there was one bloke trying to do this to everybody, and no one was.
It was pretty lame, to be fair. Then you go on to just in front of The Mummy Returns, and you've got The Purge Anarchy, which we didn't see much of. We heard it, but we didn't really see much of that, so I can't actually comment too much on that.
It was very noisy. And we didn't actually see them coming out, didn't we? As we were walking around, they had all the actors coming out with the. There was some on motorbikes, there was some with chainsaws.
So I can't comment on that one. Then you've got Bayou of Blood, which we must have walked through.
I don't even remember that one.
No, if it was there, it was very good. And then Face Off in the Flesh, which was...
We're big Face Off fans, as you know. And we did actually get a few pictures of they used their designs, and they weren't bad. But I don't know.
No, I was not impressed with the scare zones at all. I'd like to have seen The Purge Anarchy, but we must have missed it, or I don't know. The rest were very, very lame, almost pointless.
It did. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to add. It did seem this year that most of the years it's Orlando that holds the key for good scare zones. But it seems this year Hollywood definitely upped the ante, especially with the very popular Black Christmas, where it's bringing in Krampus and all these dark Christmas legends. I've heard a lot of positive things about the scare zones
that's
this year.
right up my street. I would love that. Yeah, I would really like that. And of course, I was very disappointed because the Werewolf in London is down in Hollywood, isn't it, where we live? And I love werewolves, so I would have loved to have seen that. One thing, I mentioned this before to you, the one thing that we did notice, having been to the Hollywood mazes, every year, was when you're down in Hollywood, it's where all the actors go. So I think you do actually end up with a very high caliber of actor there. We did notice a difference in Orlando. Orlando is not the mecca for actors, and we noticed the quality of the actors wasn't as good as it is in Hollywood. And that's probably why, of course,
it might be just our perception of it, but it did feel quite. It was lacking something.
Just not very professional.
But, the scare zones were very disappointing, to be fair.
Well, we had a great evening.
Oh, yeah.
All in all, it was fun. I would definitely say to people, if you're in one of those evenings where it closes at 12, get yourself an express pass. Otherwise, you'll never get around the mall. It's just miserable. You just spend all night queuing up, and then you just get to about 3 mazes maximum. It's just very popular.
There's definitely an increase over the years, I've noticed, and it's the same with Hollywood too. With the introduction of The Walking Dead, there are a lot of Walking Dead fans that have never been to Horror Nights before, but because The Walking Dead is now a live experience at Hollywood and Orlando, it's definitely drawn in the crowds. With a lot, kind of barring with the veterans of Horror Nights, you've got a lot of Walking Dead fans now, and I've noticed in past years, especially last year, I hear in the queue like, oh, I've heard, especially from some people in the queue, that they're basically only there to experience The Walking Dead, and all the mazes are kind of secondary. So I've noticed definitely an increase in population is definitely due to The Walking Dead's popularity as a TV show.
We certainly noticed in our hotel that it filled up big time, didn't it, on Friday night? And I sort of said to one of the receptionists, wow, it's got really busy. And she said a lot of people just come here for the weekend to go to the Halloween Horror Nights. And sure enough, Sunday afternoon, Monday, they're gone. Yeah, so it's definitely, Halloween Horror Nights, I think it's getting more and more popular every year, and that's certainly where a lot of people came just for that.
I think if you don't want to go to the expense of getting the express pass, the only thing you can do is make sure you're at the front of the line for gates opening, and then just hit the ground running and go and prioritise what maze you want to see the most and go straight to it. Because if you get in there later, then without getting the express pass, you're not going to get your money's worth out of an evening. It's not.
The same goes to Hollywood, I've noticed as well.
At least in Hollywood, it's small, at least you could get around a bit faster, but this is really a big place. It's a lot of walking. And one thing that I took some water in with me in my reusable beaker like this, and there was no problem in the day, but they stopped me at Halloween night, said can't bring it in. I was to say on film what I had to say to them so I could take it in with me, but because of some medical issues I have to have ice water with me, and I was allowed in with it, but I was really shocked. I didn't think it would be a problem at all. Be prepared if you're taking, there's no rucksacks, I don't think, is there? No big bags in the evening? Did, but the security was very, very thorough. So don't take anything silly in with you. There were a lot of stations where they did these cocktail drinks, weren't they? They were everywhere, those things, this year. I don't really notice them so much in Hollywood, but certainly noticed them there. So a lot of security and tons of police, yeah, not just their security. So there were some queue jumpers, weren't there? We did see some people trying it on. Yeah, but I guess that's why they have got so much security.
Yeah, because people standing in hours in line for one particular maze aren't going to be happy when someone jumps in front of them.
There were two people, weren't
they were using the express pass lane to leapfrog.
Of course, they check you at certain points, and so they were disappearing then into the normal line, pretending that they were looking for someone. They'd gone to the restroom or something, and then we noticed they disappear, and then turn up in the express line again, and then disappear again. Yeah, I felt angry for those people that were queuing for 90 minutes or so, and the rest. Yeah, that's just horrible. People do that.
So it sounds like you guys had a fantastic time, and I do appreciate you guys taking the time to do this review of the Orlando event. Hopefully next year I'll be able to experience it for myself for the 25th anniversary of Halloween Horror Nights at Orlando, so I'm hoping they do something really special for that year. I hope
it was helpful to some people, and particularly for people that are a little bit out of their 20s.
It's definitely a different perspective, which is fantastic, and I really appreciate you guys bringing your thoughts on the event for those who may not have thought about some of the issues that you guys have brought up. So I appreciate you guys coming onto the show, and thank you again. So
Welcome.
I hope you guys, you audience members out there, have enjoyed this in-look from a different perspective of Halloween Horror Nights fans. So this is the Crazy Englishman signing off.